everyone, this is Jenny and I am an English teacher from a local DSS school. I mainly teach grade 7 and grade 8 secondary 1 and secondary 2 students. And today I would like to share with you my experience in conducting lessons online. But before we talk about that, I want you to think about this because what I'm sharing is in my own context. I'm going to share with you my own belief and why would I have such belief. And afterwards, I will explain how I execute what I believe in. And after listening to my sharing, I want you to rethink, reflect, and then try to put it into your own context because we all teach different grades, we all teach different students and from different school with different levels, okay? So try not to copy exactly what I say, but use your imagination and creativity and try to adapt it and put it in your context. And of course, if you find it useful, I hope you will find it useful at the end. So it has been 50 days since we have suspended the class and right after the Chinese New Year holiday. And I'm sure most of us are very used to making teaching videos online or conducting live lessons with different video conferencing tools like Zoom, Google Meet, etc. However, in this period of time, I've heard a lot of voices from different teachers, such as, well, my students can learn well online. My student they don't do their work, or no one is listening to me when I conduct lesson online. So there are all these voices saying that they have encountered problems. But I want to ask one question. Do these problems only happen online in virtual classroom, or they actually happen in real physical classroom as well? So I want you guys to pause and reverse and play back a little bit. Before we talk about how to conduct lessons online, how to use all these technology, let's think about how we teach in a physical classroom actually. So normally, this is our cycle. We teach, we let students learn, and then we assess them, right? And when I was taught how to create a lesson plan during my PGDE course, I was taught to activate the schemata of students, like the big word, okay? The background information, the background knowledge of students. And then you go into the classroom, you teach, you give tasks for students to practice, and then you assess them, and then at the end, before 5 minutes or 10 minutes before you leave the classroom, you consolidate what you teach in that lesson. And then that's it. So this is the normal planning, right? But the point is, right now, we change the environment from a classroom into online. And if you use the exact same plan, what you do in a real classroom and then put it just to the virtual classroom, you may find it difficult, right? Of course, imagine. If I ask you to run on a track, it's easy. Everyone who can walk can run. But what if I put you into the water, into a swimming pool, and I ask you to run? What will happen? You'll be drowned. You find it hard to run. It's impossible, right? So this is exactly what you should be feeling right now because everything has changed, the environment has been changed, but then you're using the same way, the same old method to teach. And of course, it's not going to work. Because if you do that under the SEMR model, talking about how you integrate technology and then make changes, especially in education, you're just doing the very basic level. You're just substituting what you do from a physical classroom into a virtual classroom. If you talk and teach for 40 minutes in your real classroom and you do the same online, it's not going to work because you are not well using all the advantages or benefits that technology is bringing to you. Therefore, I want you to rethink and think about this question. If you are teaching online right now, why do you still need to teach? When there are so many resources, when students just need to type something from a search engine, they can go to YouTube, watch video, Khan Academy, Tech Talk, National Geographic, etc., etc. There's so many resources, channels that they can get information, get knowledge from. Why do students need you, right? If we just do knowledge delivery, students actually don't really need a teacher. So it's time to think and make change. It's not just about how well you teach, how you become the star in the classroom. It's more about students' learning experience. So we should shift the focus. And let me share with you what I do in my physical classroom. So basically, since last year, I sort of flipped my class already because I don't teach first. I always let students learn first. So my role is to design a series of learning tasks for students to learn by themselves. They may do research online by themselves. They may do group discussion, discuss, peer teaching, etc., etc. So this is what happened in my group space in the classroom where students sit together in a physical classroom. And then afterwards, I will design tasks to assess them to check how much they have learned by themselves. And based on those results, I will teach. They will watch my teaching videos. I will follow up in my next lesson. And so this is the cycle that I use in my physical classroom. And of course, like you, I experience change and I need to adapt as well. Right now, I need to do all these online. And it's impossible for my students to see each other in group space in classroom now. So I still need to make changes. But the cycle is still the same. The cycle is still the same. I still want students to learn first, and then assess them, and then I teach. But for the learning part, I prepare teaching materials. I prepare teaching videos. So they have to watch my videos online first. And then I would have different worksheets, different tasks for them to assess their learning. I want to check how much they have mastered after watching my teaching videos. And then at the end, during the live lesson, I teach. Based on the result of all those tasks that I've given them, I teach. Okay, and then there will be group tasks, there will be activities so that students can still see each other, talk to each other in the virtual classroom during the live lesson and to discuss and learn from each other. And so this is basically the flow of how I do online teaching. And coming next, I'm going to show you some real examples that how I use Zoom to conduct the lesson. But one concept that you need to remember is that when you design a task, you need to think, what do you want to achieve? What do you want students to do and be able to do during in their own individual space, okay, for the self-paced learning? And then what do you want to achieve in the group space when they see you during the live lesson with Zoom? So this is what you need to think. What do you want to achieve? So now you know that my students actually learn at their own pace online at their individual space. Right now, I'm going to show you what I do in the group space with the Zoom live lesson. And mainly, I use Zoom for two teaching methods. Number one is I will teach, I'll recap of what I've taught in the previous week, and then I will assign some individual tasks and group tasks to help my students consolidate the knowledge and also to continue to assess them so that I can keep making adjustment of my teaching for the following week. And another method or another usage of Zoom is that I will use it for group discussion. And I'm going to show you all the examples that I do with the recap of teaching, also the group discussion. And there are two functions of Zoom that I use the most and I love best. The first one is to share screen, because once you share your screen with your students, you can share your iPad screen, you can share your desktop screen, and there are just a lot of different opportunities, and then you can be very creative of how you teach the lesson. And then the second function that I like about Zoom would be the breakout room. I'm going to show you how I use these functions. So the first one is, once you use the share screen function, for example, I normally share my iPad screen and also my desktop screen with my students while I'm doing the live lesson. Then on top of that, I can use other teaching apps such as Kahoot, Nearpod, Pear Deck, etc., etc. So you can still use all tools that you are familiar with in your live lesson simply by sharing your screen. Now let's take a look. Here you can see I'm actually using an app called Loinonook School so that I can teach with the whiteboard inside the app and then summarize the point that I want to teach. Sometimes I will use probably Keynote slides or Google Slides to go through some teachings, and I still share my screen with my kids and they can definitely see it easily. And after I do the teaching, normally it would take 10 to 15 minutes, very short, just a recap, because I am not going to reteach everything that I've prepared for them in the previous week. So no way, don't do that. And all you need to do is just recap some key points or things that you know that kids still cannot manage or master, then you talk about those. And after that, based on those points, those skills, or those knowledge, you design some tasks and then you ask them to do it. So for me, I will actually give them exercise and ask them to do it immediately, either individually or in groups. And then we'll do discussion. I'll go through the answer with them and I make sure they can get the knowledge, master the knowledge before we move on to other stuff. So with the different teaching app, while you share your screen, you can highlight the points, you can underline, you can circle, etc., and annotate, and you can talk about it. So you're just still like doing a normal teaching. And then afterwards, you can also use other gaming tool or assessment tool to assess your student knowledge. For example, I use Kahoot. Kahoot is a very good tool, and you can use it with Zoom live lesson as well. So one screen, you share your desktop screen, and then you show the Kahoot page, and then you ask the student to use another device to play the Kahoot. And if you design the Kahoot well, for example, 5 questions on one element and then another 5 questions on the other element, you can, based on the result, you can check what your students understand or what they don't. So it's a very good tool, and that you can use it in a live lesson, and it's still fun. Students still love playing Kahoot, even they're doing it at home alone by themselves. And so these are the things you can actually do once you share the screen, your iPad screen in Zoom. And then another function would be the breakout room. So apart from just giving tasks to your students, I will use the breakout room function, putting my students into different groups. And normally, I will give them a time limit, for example, 2 minutes, 3 minutes to complete a task in the breakout room. So that even you cannot be in every single breakout room each time, you can still make sure they will be on task because the time is limited. 2 minutes, 3 minutes, very short, and they need to complete the task. This is what I like about breakout room. And then I will give them tasks and they'll discuss. Once I even tried doing role play. I ask my kids to go into breakout rooms. I give them roles and they need to immediately improvise and then make a script. And then a few minutes later, I ask all of them to return to the main room, the main lobby room. And then they will have, randomly pick students, and then they need to present what they have just improvised again or improvise again in the main room so that the whole class will watch those groups to present and then do drama. So there are actually many ways that you can use with breakout rooms as long as you have a clear goal, what you want to achieve and what you want to do. And apart from that, you can also use Zoom to do group discussion. And for me, if I want to use Zoom to do group discussion, I'll give them time slot. So 3 to 4 students will be in a group, and then I will ask them to pick a time slot and then book me to do a Zoom group discussion. While they are doing the Zoom group discussion, on my screen, my desktop screen, I will also use a Google form to immediately input the scores and also the feedback, because you can still use put the whole speaking rubrics onto a Google form. So you just need to fill in the form, listen to the group discussion, and then immediately after they finish the group discussion, they immediately will receive the feedback that I've just input to the Google form. I share them with my students. And apart from that, because it's a Zoom online meeting, I can also give verbal feedback directly to my students. So this is what I normally do with the group discussion with Zoom. So all these tasks, what I've just mentioned, can all be done with the Zoom live lesson. So I'm sure if you put all these ideas in your own context, you can think of something more creative or more fun to do it as well.
All right, do you have your Lino note ready? Hi, Alpha. Where's Kayla then? All right, so what we're going to do today is we're just going to look at this page, and I'm going to share the screen to your iPad as well.
Okay, so now I would like to show you how the setting should be like during a Zoom live lesson. So with my laptop here, I will use the Zoom with my laptop. So my student will see me through this the laptop. And then when I need to share my screen of other teaching tools, sometimes I will share the desktop, but sometimes, or most of the time, I will use my iPad. So here you can see that I will use the learning app here, and then I can actually go through all the tasks like this and talk about it and then complete the task with the students. And I also can set up assignments so that kids can submit their work immediately, no matter it's individual work or group work. And you can see that on this screen right now, not everyone needs to submit their work. And there are several reasons. Number one, maybe it's a group task. I asked them that they don't need to submit it individually. Second reason is that they're absent. So I always tell my students I will count the attendance of the task that they submit during a live lesson instead of just counting the attendance with Zoom. Because sometimes they may be doing something else, daydreaming, or they're probably not physically there with Zoom attendance. So I always do tasks and then I count that as attendance. And sometimes they may not have an extra device. I tell them it's fine. So just look at the screen of Zoom, the share screen, and then do their task with the paper and then take a picture and submit it back to me later on. I still accept it. So there are several possibilities, but always have alternatives for your students and think of ways to solve their problems, especially about technical issues, okay? And so with the iPad, the easiest way. But sometimes your kids may tell them, oh, Miss Jenny, I only have like my desktop. Actually, if you think clearly, I believe most of them, they would have a phone at home, right? Or maybe their family members would have an extra phone. So still, they can use their desktop for Zoom live lesson, and when they do Kahoot or some other task, they can use their phone or another device just to play the Kahoot part. Even the screen is small, but if you're just talking about playing with Kahoot, it will be totally fine. So these are the devices that are a little bit more advanced, but just these two devices, the desktop and the tablet, then you can conduct a very creative, fun, and meaningful live lesson with Zoom. So basically, this is what I do with my Zoom online lesson. And before I end, I still want to share some tips, just a few tips for you. The first thing that you should do is to always break down the knowledge that you want to cover. For example, for me, if I teach a grammar item in a real classroom, probably I can use 1 or 2 double lessons, I can finish teaching everything. But the point is, now if you bring everything online, you need to use probably 2 weeks just to cover 2 double lesson stuff. For example, relative clause. I may have just 1 video to teach students how to identify relative clause. And then that would be a 10 minutes, 15-minute video already. And then after that, I'll give them a form, a Google form or quizzes worksheet just to identify relative clause. And then the next day, I will focus on introducing relative pronoun. And then the next day, maybe I just talk about the relative pronoun, who. And then the next day, maybe I just talk about which. So I break all the stuff and elements into very, very small parts and make sure every day students will be able to really learn and understand and master. If after a week, basically if you teach like that, your grammar items, you will just probably complete few items, 4 or 5 items within one grammar rules, okay, one grammar items. And after a week, you can make sure your student can manage and learn and master before you move on. If not, you reteach, because it is very important. And because now we're all teaching online, if you neglect the weaker ones or the slower learner and just go through the stuff at your own pace, like what you've planned in your curriculum, the learning gap will be bigger and bigger if we ignore that. So always make sure even the slower learner, the weaker learner, they master the skills before you move on. So break down the stuff into smaller parts. And then my next tip is always give reasonable amount of work. To be honest, the students, they don't have teachers teach them directly like what we do in schools. And they need to learn and complete tasks of different subjects. If they have many things that they don't know from different subjects, that will frustrate them and that will discourage them to complete the work. So always make the task small and easy so that they can handle and then they can achieve it. They feel the sense of achievement so that to encourage them to continue to learn from you. So always give reasonable amount of work. And then, last but not least, try to give choices. I know that we all have a scheme of work to follow. We have syllabus that we need to cover, and the class suspension will continue, and we are cramming all the stuff during these times. But the point is, we also should think about or think for the students. I know what we need to teach, but are they what the students want to learn? So when you think about that, try to give choices, varieties of tasks, so that students can pick what they want to do. Like us, if we adults or teachers, if we learn online by ourselves, we also pick courses that we want to learn, right? We wouldn't want to be spoon-fed and then sit down at the screen and then just listen to whatever topic given to us. So you can always be a little bit more creative in terms of choices of assignments. For example, if you want to assign one task, the ultimate goal is maybe learn the story. But the point is how you reach to that destination, there are different ways. You can ask them to read a book, write a report. You can ask them to draw a picture. You can ask them to film a video and talk about it. And as long as all the students at the end, they can achieve that goal, maybe you can give some choices to them so that they'll be happier during this time when everyone is a little bit unhappy because they can't see their friends, they can't see you. So I hope these tips, you can try to use it in your live lesson or online teaching so that you can have a better relationship with the students, also to make learning a little bit more fun. So that's all for my sharing. Thank you.